Okay, we are now in section D, recognitions and presentations, and first we have a report from CSEA, maybe. Any CSEA report? Seeing none, we'll move on to a report from Ramona Teachers Association. I feel like my mic's really...
Good evening.
Happy summer, nice to see you.
Happy summer. Well, almost, because summer school's not over till Monday.
Okay, almost there.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
We're getting there. We're getting there. It's going to be good. So Corey cannot be here tonight, so she asked me to provide her board report and ultimately just, some of the end of the year stuff that was really cool that we just want to make sure you were all aware of. So we're going to start off with prior to the end of the school year at the high school, we had Saturday school for Math 1 students, and it turned out to be very, very successful. They held Saturday classes, study sessions covering all of the semester 2 material. Attendance ranged anywhere from 25 to 50 kids each Saturday, and many of the students were struggling. They advanced their proficiency and ultimately moved from not passing to passing, so they were very, very successful. As I'm sure most of you are aware, but we'll remind you that the engineering students have been hugely busy. They've been collaborating with our special needs students to learn the principles of rocketry. The aerospace students who attended a workshop at the Air and Space Museum with Dan Marshall's students, and then the students who do the empowering students, those seniors, they work with Mrs. Fay, Mrs. Maurer, and Mr. Krashenko's students to build nearly 40 rockets, all of which were successfully launched right before the end of the school year, which was really cool. The Airline Jack Skills Design Team were not only preparing for the Skills USA competition, but two of the members, Riley Jensen and Neil Jacobson Hearn, with prototype design help from Taylor Gibson, entered the American Team Mogul competition in New York City. They got to go. They presented their ideas to a set of Shark Tank judges. They finished 3rd in the nation, so that was pretty spiffy. The RHS NJROTC has been recognized by the Navy as a distinguished unit with academic honors. Then some of the 3rd and 4th graders from Hanson went on a field trip to the Guy B. Woodward Museum and the Ramona Town Hall. There was also an in-class presentation for the same classes by the president of the Ramona Heart Mural Project. The students made great connections between the field trip and some of the murals that they're learning about that ended up in an opinion essay about their favorite Ramona mural. Nick Jordan brought 6 of his construction students over to Henson Elementary on May 31st to help Mrs. Gilbreth's class put together 3 garden boxes. The RUSD GED program had 4 additional individuals pass their 4th and final GE test to become graduates of the program. MHS had a very successful awards night with over 25 seniors receiving scholarships and school-based awards. The award assembly was well attended by board members, members of the cabinet, parents, staff, and supportive members of the community. At OPMS, the 7th and the 8th grade students visited the Birch Aquarium last month. This amazing experience was a no cost to the student trip thanks to a generously donated tickets from Birch that the teacher had applied for. The students had a great time and they all really enjoyed exploring the aquarium as a school group. At RCC, Mrs. Hicks led a group of students to Sacramento and San Francisco as part of their yearly California history study. 5th graders at RCMS just completed their successful Volume Zoo, a project that incorporated math, art, science, and engineering. And all of the RCMS students and the MVA band students enjoyed an end-of-the-year music celebration with Mr. Bachman. Not only a high school teacher, but also a mom of elementary students at Mount Woodson, Mary Martineau wanted to take the opportunity to thank you all and thank RUSD for the implementation and the funding of the reading intervention programs at the elementary schools. The teachers at Mount Woodson recognized that her boys needed some intervention in reading and writing skills and suggested them for the program. They worked with Ms. Couples and their test grades have gone up considerably and they love to read now, so real success story there. Each of the district's promotions and graduations went fantastic. the high school especially, but I'm prejudiced. Okay, thanks go out to all the teachers and staff for the countless hours that they put in to make these special for students and families, and congratulations to all the students moving on to the next level. And then Corey wanted to make one last congrats to all our retirees. The RTA was able to get gifts to each of our retirees the last week before school was out, before they started the newest chapter of their life, and we just wanted to publicly wish them happy future and congrats on their monumental occasion. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. And how nice of Mary Martineau to give a little feedback on that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Very nice. Do we have any public comment cards on items not on the agenda? All right, moving on. We are now on Section F, Education Services, and the first item is F1, Report of Information on the Local Indicators on the California School Dashboard.
Good evening, board members. Each year, the district is required to share with the community our progress on our local indicators. The California Accountability System has state priorities that we need to ensure that we're making progress in order to meet the needs of all of our students. We have a presentation tonight. You will not see that up on the screen since we do have a board member remoting in. There are copies in the back if you're interested, but each of the board members also has a copy as well.
Thank you. Looks like this.
Like
picture in picture, just have Darren in the corner.
like a show and tell.
He's kind of like Alice in Wonderland, like a little floating head.
So the local indicators are aligned to our LCAP goals, and they also meet the needs of the state priorities. And I would just kind of go through each of those. Priority 1 is basic conditions of learning, and this is where we're looking at how are our teachers credentialed. Do we have fully credentialed teachers? Do we have any misassignments? And we have 95% of our teachers are fully credentialed and appropriately assigned. And the presentation would show you that of the 14 misassignments, 9 teachers hold a general education or special education limited assignment permit. 1 is an emergency credential, and 4 hold an emergency CLAD or short-term staff permit. This is actually a decrease over last year. We were at 98% last year and at 95% this year. The second slide under basic conditions is in regards to something that we've kind of talked about in our board meetings before, that all of our students have standards aligned instructional materials for use at school or at home. So part of that Williams report out would be that one. The next has to do with our facilities and that facilities inspection tool report. 2 of 9 of our school buildings met the ranking of good repair. This is up from last year. We had 0 schools meet good repair last year. So we are working on making progress, and those 2 schools that were in good repair are Mount Woodson and Ramona Community Campus. Priority 2 is where we're taking a look at the implementation of state standards, how we're implementing them, how we're providing professional learning on them, and this is a self-assessment using a tool that the state provides where we have to determine are we in beginning development, full implementation, and sustainability. We survey our site leaders and take a look at our implementation across the district in K-12 as we respond to this for the dashboard. The second slide, again, has to do with instructional materials and making sure they're aligned to the curriculum framework and what's available for students in the classroom. And that next one is about implementing policies and programs to support staff in making sure that they're delivering instruction aligned to those academic standards and curriculum frameworks. Feels weird not to have a presentation ticking up that I can kind of pace you all with. Other adopted academic standards, this is where we're taking a look at CTE, health education, physical education, visual and performing arts, and world language. You'll note that we're in full implementation and sustainability in all areas with the exception of health. And as you know, we've been looking at that health course at middle school, digging into eventually into our elementary health and our high school health, which currently is running in our online program. That second page under priority 2, or I'm sorry, the second one after that, it has to do with engaging teachers in the following areas. So identifying the professional needs of groups of teachers or staff as a whole, and identifying the professional needs of individual teachers, and providing support for teachers on the standards they have not yet mastered. We do a lot of surveying our teachers for feedback after they do professional development to find out what they need next. And even at the beginning of the year, we do a lot of feedback surveys. We like to know the good, the bad, all of it, so that we can make sure we're improving and meeting the needs of each of our teachers. Often on that professional learning day, we take that information that the teachers provide, and we do sessions so that they're able to self-select the sessions that they need based on their learning, where they are in their learning. Priority 3 is about parent involvement and family engagement. We've already shared a little bit about that LCAP survey with the board previously. We had 3,816 responses. We were up as far as our EL family responses are concerned. Last year we had 4% EL, and this year we had 8% EL, so that is definitely a celebration. We were only 6 fewer responses this year than last year, so we were right on that mark of closing in on 4,000, so we're pretty excited to share that. And we had more parents and families participate this year than last year, so 121 more parents and families this year over last year. Those reported areas that you see in the bullets, building relationships between school staff and families, building partnerships for student outcomes, and seeking input for decision making, are going to be what we're going to cover in those next few slides. Those are those questions that we're asking families and students, and really gauging as we take a look at that each year. Are we improving? Are we seeing a decline in elementary or secondary, and why might that be happening? So that first slide is about that parent involvement and family engagement, and this is where we're asking about trusting and respectful relationships, progress towards creating welcoming environments for family, and you'll notice that we're in full implementation and sustainability, so we're maintaining or we're improving in all areas, with the exception of we don't have sustainability yet under progress to support staff to learn about the family strengths, cultures, languages, and goals. So we still have some work to do when it comes to digging into the cultures of each of our families and providing that professional learning for our teachers. The next page, this is based on the feedback we have, progress in providing professional learning and support for teachers and principals to improve the school's capacity to partner with families. We're beginning to work on that in a more robust way, really doing some of those focus groups and family calls, digging in especially after the school year ended on chronic absenteeism, and making personalized phone calls to figure out how can we help, what can we do to support, and just trying to make that a more personalized approach. We have full implementation when we're providing families with information and resources to help with the student learning and development at home. Not quite sustainability. It falls off a little bit when we're thinking about secondary support at home for the learning. And then as far as implementing policies and programs for teachers to meet with families and students to discuss student progress and ways to work together, we're in initial implementation there. Again, we often have more of that happening at elementary than we do at secondary, and seeing some of that fall off when we have our survey results. The last slide for family involvement and parent engagement involves their ability to join advisory groups. We do a lot of advocating for our families to join school site council, PTA, any type of advisory group we have, and really engage them in the opportunity to be on those advisory groups and be a part of that decision-making process. We're in that initial implementation when we're seeking out that same for our unrepresented groups. So those groups whose families might not always be involved, or might have a two-household working environment where it's harder to get them in, trying to come up with new ideas and ways to get them involved. Offering virtual options is one way, but we're still not seeing that like we'd like to see it for some of those families. Priority 6 is school climate. And we had 2,527 students respond. And then when we move into our school climate questions, and we're talking about students indicating a high level of school connectedness, you see that 68% of our elementary students are feeling a high level of connectedness, and 41% of our secondary students are feeling that high level of connectedness. That's pretty typical to what we see every year. Elementary feels more connected than secondary does. There are a lot of factors to consider with adolescence and just all kinds of things that happen, but definitely continuing on with our student focus groups at the school sites at secondary and elementary to kind of see where that's coming from. We have those launching at the beginning in the fall, where we'll be doing focus groups at every school site. Random students will be selected to participate and talk to us about feelings of connectedness and if they have somebody they feel safe on campus and all of those. It's that time for that round to happen again. Percentage of students indicating a high level of care, we're at 62 and 35%. Again, same trend you see, more at elementary than secondary, and this is right on par with last year as well. We're within 1% from last year to this year. I'm sorry, on both of these. Percent of students indicating how well teachers or adults in school listen to them when they have something to say. Again, 68% elementary, 46% secondary. Feeling safe at school, 69% of elementary students feel safe, and 39% of secondary students. Both of these dipped a little bit from last year, and you know, it's hard to know when. I think we've talked about this before too. Depending on what's happening in the community or what's out there, there's a perception or a fear. If there's fights happening on a campus at a certain time, then we're not feeling as safe. Or if there's something going on in the media, you know, at school shootings or different things like that, we're not feeling as safe. So we'll be digging into that as well to see what we can do to help students have that increased school climate. Broad course of study. So 100% of students have access to a broad course of study at high school except driver's education. So there was a sneaky little thing that happened during COVID to EdCode, which we just discovered, and that's the requirement that we must provide driver's education in our high school during the regular school day. So we're working on a plan. It's coming back. Yes, you are right. It is coming back. Not the behind the wheel, but we do have to offer the actual instruction. Yes. And so, funny story.
Isn't that where most of us learn to drive?
Right. We caught this, and I'm like, how did we miss this? I think this just got thrown in during COVID, and we're, you know, scrambling. And reached out to the county, and the county's like, what? They didn't know.
Oh my God.
Every other school in the curriculum and instruction committee, what? Ramona, I believe, was the first school district to catch that this was added to EdCode, at least in San Diego County that I know of. And so we're working on a plan to implement that year after next, because we do have to build a course and a course of study and hire someone and do all of that. So it takes more than just, but yes. So we are as far as we knew, we were 100% until recently when we discovered driver's education slipped into EdCode.
Okay.
And then the other is we're 100% broad course of study at OPMS, with the exception of health, which we will begin piloting fall of 2023. So we feel like we can say 100% because we have that plan. It's in place. The course has been approved, and we're moving forward.
Right.
Any questions?
Yeah, so since you brought up the driver's ed, are we going to offer that to sophomores? I mean, what are we thinking?
You know, we haven't developed the plan yet. We're working on it, but that would make the most sense. And what CD's recommendation is that it would be like your sophomore year. We're looking at like a life skills / driver's ed elective type course, because it's not something that a student has to take. The trick is it's only 30 hours that's required, so we need another 30 hours of something to create a semester-long course, but we don't schedule on the semester, so it creates a master schedule challenge. So there's a lot to like think through on that. So we're working on it, but yes, sophomore year would be probably the best placement for the majority of students.
Mrs. Wilson's been very humble about that. We did not find this. She
Right.
found
Well,
one in the county.
I gathered it was just ridiculous about everything.
Yes.
So I do have some questions.
Absolutely, go ahead, Roger.
So we brought up Williams, making sure that we were providing all the curriculum. And then when you went through all the standards, I was very grateful because you added in CTE in our electives. My question is, when you brought up Williams, does that I know that probably only includes what the William requirements are, but we are 100% efficient in our curriculum for all of our CTE and elective areas, right?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
And we'll report that back out at the October board meeting as well.
I assumed so. It just wasn't in the document. And then one of the things I wanted to comment, this is a positive thing, on the survey results. We have 50% of our students answering the survey. I don't know of any school district that's that high where their students are doing the survey. That's pretty incredible. And then it's almost 50% of our staff too. So that's pretty incredible. So I just wanted to make a point of that.
Thank you.
I'm sure that's through you and your team's effort. And then on family engagement, it's always the case that families are more involved in elementary. They drop off in middle, and they really drop off in high school.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that you're well aware of that. That's part of this. I'm assuming you're trying to get more engagement in the middle and the high school. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but I'm excited to see it. And then on the culture, because it says school culture climate, I would just encourage that we bring parents into that, because I think that they have a lot to do with
Absolutely.
when kids come to school. Obviously they bring in what happened at home. And so when you brought up connectedness, and I know you're following the priorities, but I would say that it's more than connected, because you can feel connected and not feel like you belong at all. And so I would say that maybe we add the word belonging. And I know you hear it all over the place, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Possibly.
Yeah, probably true.
Possibly. Dan, did you have anything?
The only comment I had was at that age group that do not have a strong relationship with an adult on the campus. Naturally, the younger kids have a stronger relationship, and as they get older, they become far more independent. But I would certainly like to think that our upper grades have a strong relationship with our staff, because we know that the staff is more than willing to have a strong relationship with them.
I can speak to the student interviews that I sat in at the end of last school year, when we would ask the students, do you feel connected? And they might hem-haw, because sometimes that's super subjective, right? About how they take that question. So then we would say, do you have someone on campus that you can go to, that you feel comfortable talking to? And every single student, any demographic, you could see them go, yes. Like it, and this was I did the ones on the RHS campus, so I can only speak to that one, but it was an immediate yes. And we recorded those, so we had permission, and we video recorded those, and we audio recorded them. So that we had that transcript later to go back to. And it was pretty neat to see how many high school students randomly selected could immediately, once we just changed the wording of the question just a little bit so they understood it a little bit more and could connect to it a little bit more, it was a yes. We have certain questions we have to ask based on the the state's measure. And so then we add additional questions to that to help us dig a little bit deeper into that, and then still do our focus group so we can really know the full picture.
That's more encouraging than the numbers,
Yes. Yeah.
Darren, did you have anything on this?
No, thank you.
All right, very good. And just on the condition of our facilities, were the options just good, fair, or poor? Was that, and we had nothing in poor? Yay! 'Cause we've had a lot of issues with the rain this past year, so yeah. Okay, good job. Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Okay. We are now on item F2. That's approval of the local control and accountability plan for 2023 and 2024.
Board members, at the June 12th board meeting, we brought forward the LCAP during the public hearing, and so we're bringing back the RUSD LCAP for approval tonight. The LCAP has been available for review on the district website. We've held a community forum all day for anybody who had questions or concerns and wanted to provide input. We've had educational partner meetings going on just about monthly or twice a month since January, just giving opportunity for community members, family members, everyone to provide the input that they need, and that's all reflected in the plan that we went over at the June 12th board meeting. So the recommendation tonight would be for the board to approve the LCAP that's being brought forward as is.
Okay. Any questions? Motion?
I move approval.
Thank you, Roger.
I'll second.
Now I have questions.
All right, go for it.
So, I couldn't help to think about this. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm at the Capitol, and this little book pops up, and it's George Washington's Guide to Civility.
Oh.
And I'm thinking to myself, let me look at that. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, our students could benefit from all this. But it's written like, hundreds of years ago, so nobody would understand it. At least students wouldn't. And so I thought to myself, because we've brought this, what does it mean to be a citizen? We brought this up many, many times, and how we hold our students accountable to that. So if there's one thing on this, since we have it as our goal one, I think we might want to put a little bit more emphasis on that, especially now that we're coming out of COVID. We're trying to create this new culture. I think it makes a lot of sense. So that would be great if we could figure out what exactly is that, and then hold them accountable in class and outside of class at all levels, all ages. Because the truth is, you're going to get that in your government class, but you're not going to get that in your art class. You're not going to get that, it's not talked about. But if we have standards that are across the board on what this means and how you behave yourself, I think it could help across the board. And when students leave, they leave the school, graduate, they have a better understanding what our expectation, instead of it just being, oh, here's our goal, because the goals are usually for us. They don't read these goals. So anyways, that's it. I'd like to see, I'm just curious how we're going to put that into action.
One neat thing I think to note too is our language arts curriculum. The very first unit in K through 6 is about the community and civility and the government and how it operates, and that's all in our English language arts curriculum. So that's a neat, in addition to looking at that moving forward, that's something that every family across K6 in Unit 1 of the English language arts, those are the reading pieces that they do, the stories, all of those pieces. So that's a nice add.
Very good.
Yep. No, that was it.
I'm good.
Good. Okay. So this is the next item. Oh, we have a motion.
We need to vote.
Okay, we have a second. Sorry. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Approval of the local control and accountability plan, federal or
So this is a little redundant because Ramona Unified opts to put our federal funds in our LCAP plan. But the state requires us, or I'm sorry, the federal government requires us as a part of ESSA to have a LCAP federal addendum that goes into depth in how we spend our federal money. And so the outline that you saw in the LCAP previously, along with a more detailed federal addendum that's for our federal dollars, is here tonight before the board for approval. This is a requirement in order for us to receive that federal funding, for us to have a plan on how we're going to use it and the progress that we're seeing with those students that we're using it for.
Do you have that in your Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's right.
F3, yeah.
This is the cover sheet. That's basically. You have it on.
I'm looking at it here.
No, I didn't see the green sheet. I see it now.
Right. Okay. So this is an action. Did we all find what we needed?
I move approval.
Any questions about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. We are now on to item F4, that's approval of revision to current course of study, AP.
Good evening, Governing Board. Tonight we're bringing forward a revision to a course that's already been previously approved by the board. This is AP Economics. When the AP College Board revises their standards or makes changes, we have to update our courses of study so that they reflect the accurate standards. So tonight we have AP Economics coming forward. In Ramona Unified, because this is a senior course and a part of the California requirements for high school graduation include that our students have both economics and civics standards. We take our AP courses, and this might be a reminder for you because you approved the AP Government course in April with economic standards added to it. And now we're just doing the reverse. We have the AP Economics course, and we have the civics standards that should be covered after that AP course is given. They do a deep dive. They focus on all those AP standards up until the AP test. And then post AP test, then they focus in that other component for high school graduation. And so this is just the reverse of what you approved in April for AP Government with the economics standards added. This is AP Econ with the civics standards added for after that AP test. The recommendation is for this course of study to be approved with the revisions as noted.
Can you differentiate between government and civics?
The courses themselves?
Yeah.
Without having the course of study in front of me, no, it's very similar though, so that AP Government course meets the needs of the civics requirements for our seniors.
And then on top of the government, they also get a civics instruction as well?
No, so when they take AP, so a traditional path, so a student who's not taking AP courses would take a semester of civics, like that core civics course, and a
Yes.
semester of economics.
Okay.
And that would be like one semester for civics and one semester for economics.
Okay.
And that's if I'm not taking that AP path. If I take the AP path, then it looks a little bit different, and we would make the student take the AP Economics course, and then we would attach those required standards to the end of that AP Economics course so that they may graduate high school, because it is a California graduation requirement that we teach them those civic standards, kind of what Mr. Dome was talking about earlier, that it's really important. California stands by that really important piece. And so we have to add them to the economics course, or they wouldn't be able to graduate from Ramona High School unless they took another course on top of that. And that would end up decreasing our number of students who want to take those AP courses, because then they'd have to take a second course on top of, when we can do a deep dive. We have enough time to do a deep dive into that opposite piece.
Thanks for explaining.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm looking at the content. The content's fine, but this is the first time I've seen this book.
The book is only I'm not sure why it's on the table here tonight. It's only being given to you. It's going to come back in August as an information item, just like we do with a pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing to do with this book tonight. It's actually coming to the August board meeting because they're going to be piloting this in the fall.
Okay.
They'd like to pilot this in the fall.
Let me just ask you this.
Normally, I think they get delivered to you guys. And right, yeah.
There are really two ways of thinking when you talk about economics. One, and it's two ways of thought. One is being very thrifty and going that route. And I'm speaking money because it's an easy way to understand it. And the other one is spending a ton and hopefully it works out. I mean, honestly, those are the two different ways of thought. Are both of those represented in here?
In the book? Or in the course?
In the course of study.
The course of study is more about the macro and microeconomics, like supply and demand.
Right.
Our personal finance course and financial algebra course cover more of what you're talking about as far as that piece goes.
No, I understand.
Uh-huh.
I understand that. And I said it in terms of finance, just as a simple way of understanding it.
Uh-huh.
But still, those are two ways of thinking, two ways of thought when you talk about economics. And in here, I'm looking at the theory, like you have John Locke. I'm seeing that you have the right people to talk about it, but I was just wondering if that's even discussed. Are you discussing both sides of this issue? And because I think it really does matter, because there are two ways of looking at it. I mean, I've got economists in my family.
Oh, I would have to dig
So-
a little deeper into the economics, the AP College Board economic standards to be able to answer that thoroughly for you. But I can do that and respond to you with
Yeah,
it.
that would be helpful, because we're trying to present two sides of an issue, and I know this has nothing to do with politics or anything. This is more of how you really run the government, how you really, run your own life, whatever. And so we're
I would
teaching
imagine
kids
so,
this,
but
yeah.
I don't want to say that because I haven't dug into the AP College Board standards like I've dug into our high school standards.
Okay. Yeah, if you could
Yeah.
get that for, I think
In a
that'd be
future board
helpful.
update, absolutely.
Just to understand that we're presenting that balanced approach, even though it's more of a content area.
That will come back to you in August when this is an agenda item. The economics book is not an agenda item tonight, and so I'm not prepared to answer those questions on that textbook. Tonight is just the course of study because we have to approve the course before we can bring the book forward as a pilot for you.
Although it does reference this text in the course of study.
Correct. Pending board approval.
Like I said, the content, I would assume it's there based upon what I'm seeing. I just don't know. It's not a question I've thought about asking before until recently when I saw the debt on the TV. No.
Yeah. That's the civics requirements, so that comes from the civics course. I don't I don't name the things that are in the standards by the state, so that's how they title them in the standards.
So right, so the civics standards are required, but not a civics course necessarily.
Correct.
So we roll the civics standards into the econ course.
Correct.
Right? So it's not a separate econ and civics.
Correct.
In our district, we choose to incorporate those standards into the econ course.
Yes, in hopes of keeping our AP numbers in both of those other courses
Right.
higher. Mhm.
Okay, I got it.
It's just kind of confusing.
Yes, our teachers go into a deep dive, definitely in the civics. They probably don't cover every single one of those standards that are listed there, I would say, in as much detail as they might if it was a year-long civics course. The standards are the standards, and these are AP standards. The first half for the AP Econ, those are AP from College Board, and it has to pass the College Board review for our approvals.
Do the non-AP, do the non-AP, students get a civics course and an econ course in separate semesters or years?
Separate semesters.
So it's only the AP students that are getting this rolled in?
The majority of
Right.
students are taking the civics for a semester and the economics for a semester.
Which is pretty traditional.
Pretty sure, yes.
Just so I'm looking at all talks about American democracy and Constitution and how our nation started, founding documents. There's no word democracy in the founding documents, and I wonder why it's so many times inserted in those standards when it's not there.
Well, this is in an AP class,
No.
where would they? I have to think this isn't the only time students are exposed to this kind of information. Is that correct?
No, definitely not, because they will take U.S. history.
Right.
This is just the, correct.
This
The-
is the civics requirement for graduation.
Correct.
It's not their only history lesson. Microphone is up. I think Maya's quiet for now. It's been brought to my attention that Darren had something to contribute. Sorry, Darren, if I overlooked you there a little bit.
No, I was just asking if Maya could speak louder and into the microphone. I was having trouble hearing her.
You know, when the AC unit kicks on, it's hard to hear. I'm sure that's part of the interference.
Thank you.
Did you have anything you wanted to comment on this item?
I do not.
Can I say one more question?
Could,
So I assume the way that this is taught, we have an expert in the audience.
that's what I was just gonna
I'm-
say.
I'm
I
just-
wondered if I could, if I could lean on,
No, I'm
if
trying
I
to-
could lean
so-
on Miss Brainerd for just a second to maybe help Miss Phillips understand that civics component
Yeah,
to
because
it.
it's just one class that lasts the year, and these two subjects are combined. I'm assuming that you're talking about economics while you're talking about everything else in civics, that they flow together.
Absolutely.
It makes sense.
And when you look at this College Board AP Econ standards, there is civics embedded in, just like if you look at the College Board AP Gov standards,
There's
there's lots of
economics.
econ, monetary policy, fiscal policy, mandatory spending, discretionary spending, taxation, all of those economic standards are rolled into AP Gov. At the end of the test, we have about 5 weeks. We hit some of the more theoretical economics kind of stuff with our AP Gov kids, because those are the in AP Gov, it's really the nuts and bolts. So then we get to the theory, we do a little bit more supply and demand, those kinds of things. With Gov, with Econ, it's flipped, because part of the AP Econ standards are going to address the role of government in making our decisions, and maybe that's kind of what you were trying to talk about, Rogers, how we make those decisions in our nation. And so obviously those are going to be some of your civic stuff, and then you hit, what we have looked at, if we look at the civic standards, what's not already kind of embedded in AP Econ, and what do we, what are the things that we really think need to be hammered home in that last 5 weeks as they are getting ready to walk out and become those citizens that you were talking about.
So these concepts aren't necessarily presented in a linear way. We're seeing it.
No.
on paper here.
Definitely not.
Right.
That's what I was.
No.
Yeah, definitely not.
Right. Okay, been a little quiet.
I can be quiet sometimes.
Rare, but yes.
Rare.
I have the concept now between the government, the civics, and econ, yeah. I understand. Bottom line is that the bottom line is that the student gets a big dose of all three.
Yes.
100%.
And maybe, Ms. Brainerd, if you wouldn't mind, because I know you're such a strong advocate for the civics class also, in looking at our AP Econ course and how we add those civics standards in also, do you feel comfortable that they're getting the civics requirements? Because it sounds like Ms. Phillips was a little concerned that maybe they're not getting enough when we say 4 weeks. They're getting it throughout the whole course, and then anything we might have missed.
Anything that is not necessarily already embedded by the College Board in those standards, that's what we're taking care of in that time frame after the APs.
Thank you for explaining something I couldn't articulate.
Just glad I could help.
I had the benefit of students going both those pathways, so I get it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have something, Maya?
Just would like to add that I would like to see more this description of the American Republic instead of democracy, because we are a constitutional republic, and everywhere I see it says democracy, which was not talked about until the Frenchman Alex de Tocqueville came out with his notes about democracy in America.
So who writes these?
The state writes the standards,
The
and
state
we have to,
State Board of Ed?
yes.
And all those standards about founding of our nation, it only once mentions something about republic, but everything else is a democracy, which did not exist at the time. And also there is no such form of government as constitutional democracy, only constitutional republic or constitutional monarchy.
Well, let's get that information up to the top and see if we can make a difference.
And I would like just to change some wordings in the standards, because we have to use words that did exist at the time, and we are using words that did not exist at the time. That's what I see in the standards.
We can't change this, we can't change the standards themselves.
We
That's
can't
why I
change
asked.
the wording of the standards for our district.
No.
But it's certainly, it's a discussion that you have. I mean, I'm sure that it's being talked about.
I'm like, she's raising her hand, absolutely, yes.
I don't know how you cannot talk about it.
It's talked about in 5th grade.
Yeah.
When they very first addressed America, founding
Right.
of America in the 5th grade standards. It's reiterated again, Mrs. Geiger and I have had the conversation numerous times about the issue, about the presentations that they have in the 8th grade. I taught U.S. history for a long time. We talk about it in the 11th grade. We bring it back again in the senior year. They're like, yeah, we got it.
Thank you for
So
explaining.
really would like to change the wording if I could, but if we can't, so I don't think
We
that's
can't,
correct.
But we might be able to get the state to do it.
Because I
Possible.
don't think the terms that are used in the standards were used at the time that the standards are talking about.
I get your point.
And a lot of those terms that are in existence are not mentioned in the standards. For example, there are so many different
I see it here.
forms of government. It talks about communism, totalitarianism, stuff like this. Never mentions republic. It's a very common form of government. It never mentions constitutional republic for so many other countries.
Let's make that change at the state. Since we don't have control over it here, let's take it to the level where control does exist.
Yeah, for example, it talks about constitutional democracies, but it's not a form of government.
I think the important thing is that the kids, like Dan was saying, get a heavy dose and walk away from Ramona High School, Montecito, and Future Bound with some understanding of how the government works.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you that they still won't completely understand it, but at least they'll have some general idea.
All right, Darren.
Thank you. There was a little discussion about the standards. They're actually legislative action. They're passed by legislative action at the state level. So it's that process enacts it into law. So in terms of what we want to do to change it, we don't have any power at the local level to change those standards.
No, but any citizen can, any person residing in the area or outside the area can write to our legislators, write to the state board, and push whatever change we think needs to happen. We can't.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you.
We can't do it here, but those letters sure can go on up. Okay, so this is an action item. We have talked about it quite a bit. Do we have approval?
I move approval.
Roger, do we have a second?
I'll go for a second.
Thank you, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, that's 4 yes, 1 no. That motion carries. Thank you. Moving through to section G, human resources. We have item G2, approval of variable term waiver request, career technical education, transportation instructor.
Members of the board, many times in our CT classes, we have employees who come into the teaching industry without going through a credentialing program because they're coming straight from the industry. And so many times they're lacking in particular authorizations. In this particular case, we have our new automotive teacher who's lacking the authorization to teach English learners. And so we're asking for the board to waive the education code for Mr. Mora while he is enrolled in the course with the San Diego County Office of Education to obtain this authorization. So he'll be able to complete it during this year, but in order for him to teach, we need to ask the board to waive that requirement since he's coming directly from industry without going through a teacher program.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Aye.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was looking at Darren also.
Yes.
So, yeah, all right. Thank you, that motion passes unanimously. All right, I'll get better with the Zoom combo at the beginning. Okay. Item G3, approval of memorandums of understanding between Ramona Unified School District and California School.
Sorry,
You're
forgot.
supposed to put it on silent.
Almost every meeting I remind you of silence.
Not this one you didn't.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm silencing it.
Okay. At least you didn't answer it this time. You're clever too.
Everybody's now checking their phones.
Okay.
Okay, it's dead.
All right, are we ready? Okay. All right. Now we all want to call you just to Okay.
See how far I can throw this.
You know, I served on the planning group with Dan also. This never happens at planning group. You save it for here.
Guilty. I'm guilty, all right?
Wait a minute.
All right.
You're calling him right now, right?
Yeah, that's
No.
me messing with
Okay.
I have enough between my agenda and the Zoom and the people here. I can barely pay attention to that. Okay, item G3, approval of memorandums of understanding between Ramona Unified School District and California School Employee Association and its Ramona Chapter 733 regarding, it is cut off on my print.
You want to read it?
No, regarding reclassification and salary ranges.
Members of the board, we've engaged in negotiations with the CSEA regarding reclassification of particular positions from the ESP, the Extended Student Program, which has transitioned over this last year, and we now have the Expanded Learning Program, and there are additional responsibilities as part of the program and the requirements for that program, and so we negotiated with CSEA to change the job descriptions as well as the salary ranges of the employees who work within the Expanded Learning Program, and we're asking for the board to approve these 3 MOUs.
I move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this is a really great, how would you say, improvement from the program that we had before. And so I'm excited that the state, designated, earmarked all these dollars for it so that we can pay for our staff and then have higher expectations in our after-school program. Additionally, to be able to provide a better service for students. It's going to be awesome. I mean, it has been. It's going to be even better.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So I understand there's going to be retroactive pay.
Yes, as part of the negotiations, it's retroactive.
Do we know a dollar figure for the total amount of retroactive pay for the whole year? Ballpark?
Yeah, I don't have that dollar figure with me here, and I apologize for not having that, but I can send it. We did calculate what that is in the program. The Expanded Learning Program funds that we did receive this year for this program will be used to pay for that change in salary.
Do you have an approximate dollar value of the retroactive?
It's 5,000, it's 10,000, it's 500?
It's just the change from one salary to the other.
Yeah.
It's just that small change.
Honestly, I apologize for not having that.
Yeah.
We did calculate that, but I don't have it in my notes.
Any other questions about this? Okay, we have a first and a second. I'll call it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Maya, it sounds like staff can give you that information.
I will.
Although too late for this item tonight. All right, item G4, approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2023-2024 school year.
Members of the board, this item may look very familiar to you. It's an item that was brought to you last board meeting. It was part of the consent items, the agenda, but afterwards I was notified by the County Office of Education that I broke the law by asking you to have it as a consent instead of an action, so I apologize. And I'm bringing it back, telling you that I made a mistake. It's the exact same declaration of need, and I apologize for that omission. It is now an action item.
Okay, I move approval.
Roger, do we have a second?
Second.
Maya, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously.
I just have one quick question. Say in the middle of the year that all of a sudden we have an additional need and we need to say math now is 6. Do we have to go back and do this again?
I'll have to bring it back as a revision, yes.
And it has to be an action item too?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood what was coming.
And these numbers are greater than what we believe we're gonna need for
Oh,
that
okay.
reason, but who knows?
Right, okay, got it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted there. We are now on section 8, administrative services. What I'm finding is that our online version doesn't exactly match our paper version of the agenda tonight. So you see me going back and forth just a little bit. So for example, this next one, item H2, which is approval of resolution number 2022-23-44 to update committed fund balances in accordance with governmental accounting standard.
Good evening, Governing Board. At the March 7th board meeting, this resolution was updated along with our second interim budget. So going forth, each time we do a reporting period, this resolution will be brought back to update the amounts. So this resolution is to reflect the updated commitments for the 23-24 budget. And this is an action item.
So do we have a motion?
I move approval.
I'll second it. I have a question. Okay, so, something from the CSBA just came out to us saying, oh, now we're receiving less money. So, that's not anything, I didn't get a chance to read the article, but that's not anything new, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay, so that's probably just May revise. So make sure, I've been rushing around, I just wanna make sure that we don't have a surprise awaiting for us in
No.
August.
We're still being fully funded for the LCFF for the 8.22 COLA for this coming school year.
Okay, so make sure.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item H3, approval of the Ramona Unified School District budget for the 2023-2024 school year.
Governing Board, on the June 12th board meeting, we held a public hearing on the district budget for the 2023-2024 school year. Staff is now ready to ask for approval of the 23-24 budget for final board consideration. This is an action item.
So,
I noticed on our payment on our debt, significant increase in interest paid and decrease in principal. Why is that happening? Does it mean we're getting different interest rate on that certificate of, what do you call it, participation? I thought those amounts are constant because I know, for example, with mortgage, interest payment lowers and principal payment increases. But here I'm surprised to see that actually interest increased by a lot and the principal decreased by a lot. That made me puzzled.
The amount does increase for our COP and our solar payment. That's the two spots that you would see interest for. And I can give you or I can send the information to you of those schedules to see. It does increase a small amount each year.
The principal?
Not the principal, the
No,
interest.
I mean the interest.
interest rate.
So it's not a constant amount every year?
No, it changes.
Okay.
It's not a huge amount usually, but it does change every year.
Also was wondering, where is our IT expenses? Are they under services and other operating expenditures?
I'm sorry, which?
IT, information technology?
It depends. They're actually all through the different object codes. We have payroll in there, and then there's materials and supplies, contracted services.
Because I hear how important cybersecurity is in securing school district networks, and I was wondering where is expense in our district that's related to that, under which line in the
It's
budget?
hard to see in that document,
Okay.
this big document you see. We kind of when we work on the LCAP with Ed Services, we actually create a document that kind of spells out those things because it's hard to read it in here. We do have a technology budget for cybersecurity, and we have assemblies planned for next year, but that's something that is part of the budget.
Do you think that cybersecurity budget more or less adequate to our needs?
It's definitely increased for this coming year.
Okay.
We worked with IT and Ed Services on doing that to ensure.
I just wanted to clarify, our COP is a fixed rate. It's the other one,
The
the
solar?
solar that is not, and that's why we see the difference
Mm.
that she's talking about. Yeah, and then, I just had on the front page where it says there were certain things that we didn't meet, where it says other revenues, what were the other revenues? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, so when it says it's not met, that's looking at if there's usually a change of more than 2% in revenues or expenses usually for each out year,
it comes up as a flag. So next year we won't have all those COVID-related funds.
Okay.
So that will come up as a trigger. So anytime there's any of those not met, the district has to provide like a description. There's a box, and we can say exactly what it is, and we call it out there in those boxes.
Does the art money, is that part of that too? Because I know that the art money changed. We lost one and then gained the other.
Yes.
So that would trigger that too. Okay.
So I'm looking budget page, student activity special revenue fund. What is it?
Oh, that's ASB. So over a year ago, there was a new regulation that we had to start putting our ASB funds in our documents, these SACS forms that you see. Before that, it was just behind the scenes.
So I look at employee benefits, and there's like 627% decrease.
A 600% decrease. Can you tell me what page?
Yes.
You see it?
Student activity special revenue fund. Right, the first page.
Oh, on the ASB fund, the student?
Yes.
That one?
And I see classified salaries, for example, it says 22% decrease, but the numbers don't seem to reflect that.
On the budget side or on the estimated actual side? Like on
Expenditures by object.
on this side? Right here on the budget?
Oh, no.
So the right side or the left side?
It's not that page.
What page you're on?
It says page 1, but it's in the middle of the budget.
Page 1. Oh, I think I found it.
It says,
What's the date on top?
it says Form 08.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. I did find it. So are you looking at like
I'm
classified
looking at
salaries?
classified salaries and employee benefits.
Okay,
The
I'm on.
percentages don't seem to reflect the actual numbers of dollars.
So this is for the ASB budget, and this is, like I said before, this is something we're required now as a school district to report in our financial statements. Prior to, it was done just at the school site level. So the 23-24 budget amount, these amounts are kind of set on what we think they're going to be for next year, but they're definitely going to change. When the ASB pay for if there's any staff doing work for ASB, if they pay through them, it goes through payroll, and so that's why these numbers will change.
How many staff do we have on the payroll that ASB is paying for?
Oh, that could be a side. Mm-hmm.
Depends on the stipends.
Got it.
That's typically what it pays for.
Yeah.
Extra stipends
Okay.
for sports teams, so it depends from year to year on.
So that's how we do it. We do it as stipends. Okay.
Right. And it
Okay.
depends on the sport.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. And I preface this by saying, I don't know your language. Okay? I don't.
Most people don't.
Okay. Under the title Student Activity Special Revenue Fund, page 1 that under expenditures, number 3, it says in 2023, the figure $730. And then in 2024, 23-24, it's projected 742. But here's my question. In the percent difference, it says 627.5%.
That's
Yes.
what I was
In
talking
my
about.
mind, that,
Yeah, that's what she just pointed out to me. So this is the second financial report that we've been doing online. This is
Yeah.
a new online version for the SAC software, is what it's called. Prior to that, it was like a 30-year-old system we were using. So there have been issues with stuff like this coming up, and what happens is now that we have that, I'll notify the state that they can look into it and fix this. Because that's not right. That's easy math to do, but that's not.
you mean I
right
got
percentage.
that right?
You did great.
All right.
Yeah, and the line above it also is not 22% from 2 million to 500. That's what I was trying to say either.
Got it. That makes more sense now, what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I have another question.
2,000.
Several times in the year 2023, 2024, the figure $600,000 is used. I'm going to make an assumption that that is a estimate projection, and you put that number in to make sure that we're covered for at least that much, but it's a guesstimate.
Yes. the
And that
budget-
number is used in several places.
Correct. So this is, again, for ASB. This is not district money.
Okay.
So it's outside, it's at the school sites, they're associated student body. So the revenue that they come in, this is a total projection. And so this will change at second interim once we get actual statements from ASB in and we record those. We'll update our financial software, which then will update this.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I recommend that you guys sit down with Melissa because ASB is completely different and has a lot of different rules so that you understand it.
Okay, and Darren, we haven't forgotten about you. Anything to contribute at this point?
I have no questions. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We are now on item H4, that's approval to award bid for roofing projects at Ramona Elementary, Olive Pierce Middle School, and Ramona High School. Bid number 2023-11.
Governing Board, I'm very excited about this. In efforts to move forward in taking care of our major ongoing roofing issues at these school sites, the Maintenance Department has gone forward with having a formal bid for complete roof replacements at Ramona Elementary School, the gym at OPMS and the weight room, and then the I-wing at Ramona High School. So staff is recommending to have bid 2036-11 awarded to CNI Roofing for all three locations.
I move approval.
Second.
Yeah, I have a question about C&I Roofing. Where are they located?
And I was lucky to have my expert here, so I have Matt here. Matt Hudson, he's our new M&O manager. Do you know where they're located? Okay.
Google it.
We have used them before, though.
And then I just have a comment about it. We've been using Rojack for a while. They have given us good deals. However, lately, they give us, here's what it is, and then there's always change orders, and they cost more. And they're pretty significant change orders. Like they didn't do a good bid. They didn't really know what they were bidding.
And they're not, that's where we're not awarding.
So-
It's based on cost is what the reason was for this, is that we're going with CNI Roofing. They were the lowest bid.
So I'm just bringing this up. It's kind of like, NASA, where we have the O-ring and we go ahead and bid on it. We get the lowest bidder and then the O-ring fails. And so that's kind of a problem. I hope that we can hold C&I accountable. And I hope it's not like what Rojack has been doing. Yeah.
Yes, I noticed below, the district is going to buy all the materials in the amount of $1,411,000. So these bids up here that we're looking at, do they represent only labor?
So the top part, the labor part is $1,076,128.
Okay, so
Then
that's what it is.
down below, we're purchasing the materials of $334,899.01. So the combined labor and basically the parts and labor total is the 1.4 million.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then do we have, in this contract, do we have a clause that they're not allowed to do to increase the price at all? No change orders. We need to put that in, no change orders.
Defer to Matt.
Because there are deviations in one project, you open up the roof, you're gonna find something. All changes are approved. There will not be any, and nothing's going to get pre-approved from anybody else but myself.
Okay, so we'll hear about every single change order? Okay. See, I prefer that we just have in the contract, no change orders.
From a construction standpoint,
I
it's not practical.
I know it's not realistic, but then it makes, then it makes these dollar amounts will go up, but also it holds them more accountable because they're gonna give us a realistic bid. 'Cause these are all low balls, when it comes to a bid, and then they always add it. This is kind of a standard practice in the industry. It makes it very uncomfortable for us. anyways.
So is there a benefit, I don't remember seeing it done where we purchase the materials separately from the bid. Is this something new? Is there a benefit to us in doing it this way?
It's new to me because I'm not used to the way the district handles things, but from what I understand, basically what you're doing is you're avoiding the markup of that contractor, per se, and you're also getting a better deal from Trimco who's providing the materials. So we're basically buying the materials straight from Trimco, and we're not going to deal with a 10, 15, 20% markup from CNI.
No, I like it.
Was that put out
good.
then when we put this out for bid, that was
So
our
every contractor
stipulation?
received the material list and was basically understanding that 95% of the materials on there is what district is purchasing from Trimco, and it is applied to the contractor. There's always miscellaneous materials, so they always account for about 5%.
Yes, Steve?
I used to be a roofer. $2 an hour.
Oh,
Cash under the
I'm
table.
sorry.
I was rich. So I know some stuff. We've discussed this roofing issue for some time in the board. And apparently there have been examples here in our district where there was a roof put on over a roof, put on over a roof, put on over a roof, which is not happening. That's what I wanted to hear. But here's my question. When they start to redo the roofs and they discover that situation, a roof and under a roof, is that a change order?
Now, there's 4 samples taken every.
Okay.
Now, what was also accounted for is 2,500 square feet of body replacement on that's accounted for in the
Thank you.
first purchase.
Worst job of my life.
And they're located in Spring Valley.
Melissa, are we allowed to make the purchase for the capital outlay on the credit card so that we can get the 1% back and use it for something else for the district?
so we don't have a credit card that amount? Definitely not, no.
Well, I'm a very creative person, and I thought
We
we've
would
used
have-
it for other things. I'm like, it would be smart if we could.
I don't think we could even get that limit on a credit card to purchase that. Are you talking about the whole labor project, the 1.4 altogether? The materials? We don't even the credit card we have isn't even near that.
I'm just
like
throwing out,
$25,000
the
usually.
idea. That'd be $10,000 we could use for something
I like
else.
how you're thinking, but yeah.
Just saying.
Okay.
Also,
Get that 1%,
it occurred to me that change orders, you were concerned about them, Roger. They were on materials from Road Jack, but since the roofing companies no longer purchases materials, there should be no change orders for additional materials. We're purchasing them.
Well, but if they find something else, then they have to do more, and then
Change
that's
order for labor, yeah?
More labor.
Okay.
So that's where the change order would be on labor.
We can just make sure anytime there's a change order during the process, Matt will make sure that I'm aware of it and I can send it over to Dr. Thurman to share.
And maybe also if we get to the end of our materials budget and we find out that that's costing a bit more than anticipated, it would probably be good to look more into that.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, and do we expect this work to be done before the school year starts?
So the schedule, how it lays out right now, we're going to be very strategic. Ramon Elementary is probably our number 1. We'd like to have completed prior to kids coming back on campus. I-Wing would be next. There is some caveat that the contractor.
Make somebody happy back there.
I wink.
I-Wing and the gym will be next. After that, we get a little bit of a kind of a buffer with the gym because of where the gym is situated and the fact that I can park materials and trucks on the backside where the basketball courts are at. And there's not as much disruption to any students on campus. So that one could be potentially done during school time.
That's all of yours.
Yep, correct.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan came to me in my first couple of years on the board about the highway and then the roof and the need for repairs, so here we are how many years later. Okay, in my notes, I believe we had Roger make the first and I have a second. Did Darren have his hand up? I missed it. Darren, hi.
Hi, thank you. I would just ask that we make sure that we're minimizing impact to our sports activities going on in that gym in the fall semester.
Will do. We'll make sure.
I don't see a concern with that.
All right, thank you very much. I will call it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that carries unanimously. All right, Mayor, now, you know, our veteran board members know that typically this meeting is a very light agenda, but the roofing project was one of the reasons why we decided to just do a full-on meeting, because we were hoping to get some of it done before school started by getting this handled now. So, fingers crossed that we can get some of it done. Thank you. All right, item H5, approval of acceptance of gifts.
Good evening, Board. As you are aware, we had a bequest for the Karma and Abba McAllister Scholarship back in December. That was the initial amount that we received. So we have received another check in the amount of $1,892.14, and this is for the final distribution of the funds. So this is an action item to accept the gift.
We have approval.
Second.
Any questions about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are now in section I, district operations. I1 is our superintendent's report.
Thank you. Excuse me, President Perfect, members of the board and community. I just wanted to welcome everybody into summer officially. Our last meeting.
Or a few days for some of our staff.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's summer, but I know we're still busy, and that's what I wanted to point out tonight. There's a lot of work going on throughout the district, and especially as we ended the school year, departments that were ramping up significantly. So just wanted to express deep appreciation and gratitude towards those areas, and specifically some of our some areas under our major departments at the district. FFA, we had a schedule of the student schedule at the fair last week, which was packed with showing their swine and sheep, steers, everything that was going on there. Summer school staff had been in full swing, as we've heard, both at RHS and at RE. I appreciate Mrs. Wilson, I know, was walking over several mornings to just check in there and see how things were going, and that's a huge effort right now with really great gains that come from summer school for students. We heard tonight about some of the trips and things that were happening right at the end of the school year, but also specifically our 3 divisions have just been really, really busy. I've told Mrs. Wilson several times towards the end of the year when we're kind of trying to take a deep breath, and I walk into her office and it looks like a bomb went off, an organized bomb, but there is lots of curriculum everywhere, and I had forgotten that summer school is just right there when school's out, so just a lot of work laid on ed services, in addition to all the elements of the LCAP and all of those things coming together that just really requires expertise, professionalism, organization, all those things. Human resources. As we see tonight, we've been hiring administrators, we've been hiring teachers, classified staff, excuse me, dealing with legal issues, things that just go on and on and on. And so I know that both Mrs. Wilson and also with Mr. Newman have just had no downtime at all. And then admin services, I don't even know where to start, because they've been scrambling on even just the roof project right now with walkthroughs and bids and looking all of the 23-24 budget development. They are still, if you remember, going through all the retro issues, and those are huge in and of themselves, not to mention everything else going on. They've been organizing a significant safety training event coming up on August 1st. That's going to include all of our administrators with their admin assistants and their custodians, to sort of lay the groundwork of what's coming in September for each of our sites, where we'll have experts walking our sites through that. And I know that's been a huge undertaking that Mrs. Satterley has taken on. So then, not to mention just all the facility issues, the bid for tonight, excuse me, the expansion of the construction room up at MHS, all the details that have gone into our new office. If you get a chance, we'd love to show you through the new offices, which are really helping organizationally with the district office staff. So just huge gratitude and thanks to our 3 assistant superintendents, and also with Matt right there as well. I see them running every direction in the district throughout the day, and just can't express that appreciation enough. And just all of our staff that are giving of themselves for summer school. That's the reason we're all here, is for the students. So just a huge thanks for everybody for maintaining that workflow into summer.
Thank you. Dan?
Thank you. Yes. I just want everyone to understand that my first Padre game was 1954 in Lane Field. And I'm currently in mourning, which explains my inability to manage my phone. But I have good news. No, it's not about, there's no good news about the Padres. At the meeting of the San Diego County Fire Advisory Board, both San Diego County Fire and CAL FIRE brought up the need for a cadet program in high schools throughout our county. Why? Because COVID has impacted their ability to staff their engines and staff their stations. And so they want to start a cadet program. And here we are in Ramona with 3 stations and 2 battalion chiefs. So, on July 12th, Karina has done a great job of herding cats, and she's gotten a group of people together to have a meeting here in Ramona. And it includes the San Diego County Fire Chief and the CAL FIRE Fire Chief. It's the same guy, Tony Meacham. He wants to come to this meeting, and that's an indication of how serious they are about getting an elective CTE program up here. So that's good news. It's coming up on July 12th. We don't know what they need. We don't know what their ask is, and we don't know if it'll fit into our program. No idea yet. We'll find out from that meeting. But I think it's exciting if we had a cadet program, which we used to have here in Ramona. Some time ago, it's my understanding, there was a fire cadet program here. They want to revise it and get it going again. So I'm hoping good news comes out of July 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Ryan?
Not today.
Not today. Roger?
Okay, first off, I brought this book from CSBA, Guide to Effective Meetings, and I thought it would be helpful, Dan or Maya, for you guys to take a look at this. You can actually take an entire class on this, but if it's something either one of you are interested, it's how our meetings are supposed to be run. Do you want to look at it?
So do you want to loan it out, or?
It's actually owned by the board.
Okay.
I just happen to have it.
Roger, are you suggesting I need some help with running our meetings?
No, I just think it's a good idea to take a look at it.
It is, and I appreciate the thought, and I'd love to look at it.
Like a hot potato, I'm sorry. All right, thank you, Roger.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is we all know, if you haven't heard, the Supreme Court announced about the case, and affirmative action has been struck down. So that's not going to be happening anymore, and the colleges that have been doing it, it's now considered unconstitutional. So that's going to affect our schools, and so if you haven't heard, you've now heard. I gave you the the news about it. So I just wanted you to be aware how we prepare kids for college. Then also I wanted to just give a report. I was in Washington, D.C. the last 2 weeks, and I brought 4 students with me. This is actually something that our students here in Ramona could do. You know how we in the middle school take kids to Washington, D.C., but it's more of kind of learning, going through the museums, going through the Capitol, all that kind of stuff. Well, this has been the 4th year I've done this, where we take kids there and we actually speak to our senators here in California there, or if they're not there, they have their staff, and then we speak to all of our representatives. So we spoke to Feinstein, Padilla, which are our senators. We spoke to ISA, and we spoke to Peters. There's 2 others that we could have spoke to, but they just weren't available. And we have a message, and we talked to them about it, and our message this time was to increase after-school funding for STEM. So that's ESSA Title 4A, and it was $1.2 billion when we started. So since we've been doing this, we've increased it by $1.8 billion by pushing this. And not just us, it's a series of students all over the nation that are coming. So we had about 120 students this time that showed up for this, but it's a great opportunity because you really understand how the process works. And what we are doing is not trying to pass any bill because the law is already there. What we're trying to do is something entirely different, which I think would be really helpful for kids in civics and econ, and that is to be able to go through the appropriations process. And what does that mean? There's actually a room right outside of the House chambers. You can see it, and that's where they decide how much money they're going to give to each law that they've actually approved on. And it's kind of a problem because we even have Title IX, which is all under discussion too. And so the question is, like right now there's a theme in Congress, and that is we're in a year that it's a budget crisis and we need to reduce our budget. And if they don't come to agreement, it's a 1% cut at every program across the board. It's just automatic. Every program gets 1% cut from what it had before. That's what's going on right now. So we went there and we heard from they're like, well, I don't know if we can commit to that. And I'm like, here's what I want you to do. Just take a knife and cut this part out and approve that. And you can, because we're really trying to emphasize that we need these extracurriculars. So that would include the 21st Century Grant. So we're trying to make sure all those continue after school. And but anyways, it was great. We taught the kids all about it, how it works, how you talk about it, and they went in there and they just said everything. And every time we walk out of meetings, everybody's like totally surprised that high school kids are having these discussions. And you have to talk about what is a minibus, what is an omnibus. You guys know what those are? Right? But not too many people know what those are. So that's basically how what'd you do?
My students.
Your students do. Okay, so these are all kind of interesting things that you learn about and how bills are passed. But anyways, I just think it's an amazing opportunity, and it's also, I run an advocacy group here in California, and we have meetings every month, and we're putting on a conference that anybody can be part of it. Our focus is STEM, but it's a great opportunity to learn the process here in California too. And anybody here can be. We're asking every Project Lead the Way program in the state of California to have at least one student representative from the school to be in it. So that's my report. Just wanted to share what we did.
Sounds like an exciting summer.
Oh no, that was just the beginning.
I know you have a busy schedule. All right, Darren.
Thank you.
To us from Idaho, right?
Yes. So this is, typically a much shorter meeting for us, but that doesn't mean that our staff didn't put in many, many hours and extra hours to prepare for this meeting alone. What we did tonight in approving the LCAP, how many hours were put into that by staff all throughout the district? We saw a pretty short presentation and voted on it really quickly. How many hours were put into the budget preparation? We spent time on it, we've studied it, but that's nothing compared to how much time was spent preparing it. And then we have HR, who has been hiring all year and making sure that we have high quality staff and our really high need positions filled. So short meeting, but a lot happened, and it's because of the leadership of the superintendent and cabinet. You guys have done a great job all year. We sure do appreciate all your hard work. That's all I have.